education, you would all agree that is in a very critical stage of change that has to happen. Change is being demanded from within because of the fast growth that is happening, but it is also being demanded by the kind of economic growth that is happening. India's growth story is something that that's very vibrant, and that is something talked about all over the world. And then what kind of growth that is happening, economic growth also influences in terms of higher education what it is happening. 2 points I want to make. That the growth story in India, as many of you would agree, is that is not the traditional model of economic growth that has happened. We have not gone through what many other countries have gone through in terms of expansion of agriculture, then industrialization, then service sector growth. We have really gone ahead in a different model where industry has not grown, industrial sectors has not really grown, manufacturing sector particularly, but we have jumped into service sector. The major part of GDP today in India comes from the service sector, not from industry and all. This is a very non-traditional model that we have adopted. How it is influencing higher education is something that we need to really think of. But higher education growth itself is also something very different that is happening. Unlike, so since the demand from industry is not there of the kind that we are, where it happened. So the what has propelled Indian higher education growth is essentially the pressure in terms of the numbers. Now, this I think is a very important one to say. When we are talking about evolving landscape of higher and vocational education, if you are talking, evolution always assumes in a crafted manner, it moves to a higher level. But what has happened in India, Indian higher education growth is propelled from below. More children coming out, more people wanting to get into education, therefore it is growing. How it is being shaped, how much it is influenced is something that we need to really think. Shaping is the policies that are really helping in evolving and growing in a particular direction. I think that's where we are today. Today's real issue is that will we take charge of higher education, allow it to grow in a way it should grow, or we will just allow it to really grow haphazardly as it is happening. I am saying this because despite all that we talk about, higher education should yield more space for vocational education to come in, so that it links with the expanding demand in the outside world, in the world of work. We know that about 76 to 78% of enrollment even today is only in general arts and science colleges, not in technical education. Now, everything else put together, vocational, technical, whatever you want to put, all of them only. Despite the fact that it is growing, it is not growing at that speed, other things. It is still, the majority is there. Now, this is something that we should think of. This also, one thing that brings to our mind is that education, however much we want to link it with the world of industry or world of economy and all, is not essentially a part of a traditional supply-demand chain. That we want actually from outside, we think that, you know, you should produce people who can get a job. But education doesn't work like that. Education is actually propelled much more by the human aspirations it happens. Well, so some disynchrony would always be there. But are we really making an effort to really reshape it? Is the question coming. So in my view, I think we need to really act upon 3 areas. Some of them are actually too fundamental, so people wouldn't like to really touch. That's what we have really failed in this country. One is actually we need to restructure the education, the higher education system as it is happening. That's what I meant, you know, we need to shape it. We are not really shaping it. We have a huge number of people, as you very correctly said, who are 85% of the people study in affiliated colleges to the state universities, right, not to central universities, which are completely underfunded, and most of them are in the self-financing sector, not properly funded in fact. The result is that we are producing people who do not really fit in. We need to take up a major task of restructuring the higher education system as to how do we do. It's a more fundamental one, and this has, that's what I said, we are not shaping, it is not evolving, it is growing, no doubt. So this is first task actually to be done. The problem with the government spending in this country is that the RUSA, we shouldn't prejudge what it can do, but RUSA, what it will be allocated is, in my view, for the size of this country's higher education system, and it is growing, it will only touch the fringe. It is not going to really make a fundamental change in the structure. I think that we need to engage with the structure much more intensely than simply spending on the peripheral. This is the problem with much of the spending that we try to do in this country. Higher education in general doesn't receive adequate funding, and higher education less so.